You're listening to the Yin and Yang Show, a marketing and sales conversation providing strategic and tactical advice about inbound sales and marketing. And now, here are your hosts, Lindsay Kelly and Brian Signorelli.
And you know what? This is like the technical issue from hell. So welcome everyone to the Yin and Yang Show, coming to you live from Orlando at the BTA Spring Break 17 conference. This is Lindsay. I am here with Sig. I'm also here with my buddy Larry Levine. I am speaking quickly because we've wasted about an hour trying to figure out technical issues. And so, guys, you're going to have, anytime Brian has a question, I'm literally going to have to give Larry my headphone so he can hear what the question is. This is
or
going
you
to
can
be,
just repeat it.
I can just repeat it. That's even better. So, all right, guys. So we're going to jump right into this. Larry, introduce yourself.
Hey, Brian, Larry Levine, how you doing? I'm with Social
Larry,
Sales Academy.
Doing well. Thanks for coming on as a guest. Thanks for coming on as a guest today. Appreciate it. I guess this is the.
I can actually hear you, Brian, through her
good.
headphones, so we're good. We're all good.
That's awesome. This is great. So technology's working, but this is like
you got to snuggle up to me, Lindsay.
This is like this has got to be the only time that I can think of in my whole life where the magical kingdom is not so magical.
No, it's
Still
not
magical right now.
Right?
Maybe that's why I don't like going to Disneyland. I don't know. It's not magical right now.
No.
That's a bummer. So let's talk about social selling, LinkedIn. Let's just jump right into it. Larry, if you can hear me through the headphones right now, one thing that really caught my attention when we first started chatting and kind of, introducing one another this morning, you said that a year and a half ago, nobody knew you or knew who you were. And today they do. So what gives? How'd that happen?
I guess, Brian, social doesn't work, huh?
I guess not. How'd you go from I don't want to say zero, but for the sake of the podcast entertainment, let's say how'd you go from zero to hero so fast?
It really goes to just the whole mindset, skill set change, and I always say, I'm a baby boomer, so if a baby boomer can do it, I think anybody can do it. So it was really just believing in building a brand, because I knew that in all my years in the Copier channel that people were starting to do their research. They're starting to go online to research not only product, but then I also found out they're also researching sales reps online, whether they believe it or not. So I poured a lot of mindset, a lot of time into saying, how can I really build my brand? And the best place I found was LinkedIn.
Yep.
And I'm not a big believer that sales reps have to be LinkedIn experts, but what they really need to know how to do is how can I as a sales rep build a brand, articulate my value, tell my story that's going to align to the people that I'm marketing to. And in so doing, I can drive people to learn more about what I do via content. And that's what I slowly started figuring out, just self-educating myself. So just like a buyer, I went online and just started reading and just started researching. Grabbed a hold of a couple of really great coaches and mentors who really taught me how to get valuable and visible online as a copier rep. Go ahead.
Talk to me about that a little bit. So, I mean, take me back, take Lindsay and I back 18 months. Can you tell us about what your presence on LinkedIn looked like? And then maybe what the first 1, 2, or 3 steps you took to kind of start changing your trajectory on LinkedIn as an awareness channel and as a tool for you in building your own professional brand?
Well, I was already using it as a copier rep. So we go back 2009, 2010, I already was building out, and I had what I called a buyer-centric LinkedIn profile. So I was always building that credibility. I already knew how to drive people to my profile. So when I stepped out of the copier channel a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was doing the same things I was doing as a copier rep, but now I'm marketing to a different crowd. So instead of marketing to CFOs, IT people, facilities people, as I was doing as a copier rep, I just switched the mentality to say, now I'm marketing to dealer principals, vice presidents of sales, sales managers. So I had to flip how I built out my profile to tell my story that would align to the issues and challenges that are going on inside the copier channel with growing net new business, client retention. So once I built my profile out, then what I was doing was driving content, and I was blogging. And what really started to hit home was blogging specific challenges and answering those questions that dealer principals and vice presidents of sales had. How do I prospect for net new business? How do I create differentiation? How do I retain my clients? So the social and the content that I was driving to create the awareness of what I was doing really allowed me to do one thing, open up a lot more conversations. And I'm a firm believer that if you can drive conversation online, whether that be via chatting through a blog, it's going to lead to a message. And then we still got to use this, the phone.
Yeah.
So I found that once I built my credibility out online and I was driving relevant content and I was engaging people online, and I think we have to be proactive with it as sales reps. So it's not just throw content out there and just wait for it to automatically come back. But it's, if I threw a nice piece of content out, Brian, and you answered it, or you responded to it, then I as a sales rep have to be proactive and say, hey, thanks, Brian, for commenting on it. What is it that you liked about it?
Right.
Or what were 2 things you liked about that article so I can get you engaging back? And I knew that if you peeked at my profile, I knew with confidence that I could tell a great story with my profile. And by telling that great story, you pop on there, you see my profile. I already know mentally I've built that credibility. You see me differently. So then I just pick up the phone or I drive you a message and continue the conversation.
So he said a key thing here, credibility. And I want to kind of touch on that for a minute, because what he's done is positioned himself as an industry expert, someone who can come into an organization, whip the salespeople's LinkedIn into shape, teach them how to use it. And he's used content to do that because he's found what we call the digital voice. So talk about like what some of the elements of your LinkedIn profile are that really stand out amongst a sea of other copier and managed IT reps.
And it's a great point, because I think what happens when I'm finding out with sales reps is sales reps have a hard time articulating value. They don't even know what their value proposition is. So the first thing is, if somebody lands on a sales rep's profile, you have 8, 9, 10 seconds tops to really grab somebody's attention. So they see a picture and they see Larry Levine and they see a title. So what's that really say to somebody, as opposed to, here's my value proposition? So when I spend some time with sales reps, yes, it is LinkedIn heavy, but it's also, if you can't articulate your story, if you can't articulate a value proposition, leveraging an online source like LinkedIn, it's a game over, in my opinion.
Your personal branding with them.
Your personal branding. So if Brian, you're out prospecting or you're out just searching people's LinkedIn profiles, if you landed on my profile and in 10 seconds, you're going to exactly know what I do, because I've keyed in underneath my name. I've created a value-centric proposition. That is what I do, transforming how copy reps grow net new business through LinkedIn and storytelling. That's what I do. So furthermore, if that piques your interest, it's driven you right to my summary page. And in my summary page, it's not, hey, this is how great I am, this is how great the company I work for is I understand the issues and challenges that sales reps in the copier channel have.
Right.
So I'm sharing, hey, I understand the issues. I've walked a day in the life of your shoes. And here, if you become a client of mine at Social Sales Academy, here's how I can help you. And then I drive them right to my work experience. So I think the biggest thing with sales reps is their profiles look like resumes. It's all about this is how great I am. This is how great my company is. Here's all my products. And they're going, okay, you're speaking copier language and Mr. CFO speaking finance language, and it doesn't mix.
Yep.
So I tell sales reps, if you want to align to the people you're marketing to, speak their language and leverage your profile to speak their language.
Right.
So
right.
you're saying, like, if the target audience for a copy rep, let's say they're in the education sector, then they're obviously going to make sure that their profile doesn't say account manager. They're going to say experienced productivity enhancement specialist in the education, like something that mixes with what they're trying to do and what they want to be seen as in the digital world.
Yeah, and I just thought of this, and I think if we just take a step back, I think the biggest challenge I see with sales reps is sales reps don't know how to market themselves. And I know I'm probably setting us up for a whole other conversation, but sales reps must learn how to promote themselves and become better marketers. And the biggest platform they have to do it is via social and online. And it's not, hey, broadcasting out, I'm a sales rep. It's broadcasting out, I'm a subject matter expert. Here's how I can help you. I understand the challenges that you have. And by the way, here's some relevant information on how you may help solve those problems, remove those challenges. And if we engage in a conversation, this is what we're going to talk about. And furthermore, here's people that I've worked with, and here's my recommendation. So it goes back to social proof. If I know that a buyer's online doing research and they hit my profile, I knew as a copy rep, and I know now that the minute they land on my profile, It tells my story. I hit them with, I understand your issues and challenges. Here's content. So I upload digital assets onto my profile. And then if you become a client of mine at Social Sales Academy, here's what you're in for. And here's what people have to say. And I think as sales reps, we have to just remove the guards of, I don't want to know who I don't want to put my customers out there because my competition may know. Well, your competition already knows.
Yeah.
So it's just, I just went into social, as a seasoned rep 6-7 years ago, just saying, what do I have to lose? I'm taking great care of my clients. This was a way for me to snuggle up to my clients better, but it was a way for me to broadcast, this is what I do. 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, right?
Oh, every
Social's
time.
out there.
Every time I go to LinkedIn, Larry's there.
So
Top of my feed.
So Brian, here's a case in point. We're at the BTA conference. I'm walking up, shaking people's hands, and the minute I introduce myself to somebody, they go, I've been following you for a while. I know exactly what you're up to.
Yep.
That's what sales reps need to do. So I go, if I can market myself, and I'm marketing what I do to the whole US, Australia, the UK, and in the span of 1 year, if I can get people to notice me all over the world, and as a sales rep, all you're worried about doing is marketing yourself in one little patch. It could be a zip code patch, could be a territory like where you live, Brian, in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
How are you as a sales rep getting noticed in your marketplace?
So one of the things that really jumped, I'm actually on your LinkedIn profile right now, Larry. And one of the things that really jumped out to me is you've got 84 articles published, the long format articles published on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I myself have been on LinkedIn, I think since LinkedIn came out like in 2006, I want to say.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there. And I've only written like 8 articles, right? So you've been doing this for really a far shorter time than I have. But how have you found, and I'm thinking, from a rep's perspective, that wants to start taking these baby steps and kind of get in the direction of becoming someone like you who's built a profile like this and has kind of leveraged LinkedIn this way. I mean, you have over 5,000 followers. You've written 84 articles. I absolutely agree that the way that you present yourself with your value-driven, I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but like basically a value statement in your headline.
Right.
Totally agree with that. So how have you found time to write so much content and engage, the people that you want to engage with or that you're trying to attract to rather, through your profile and through LinkedIn? Have you found the time to do that?
Well, first of all, thank you for your comments, but I think it goes back to this, and it's 2 things that sales reps have a hard time dealing with: time and patience. And to me, sales is not just 8 to 5. And I'm high type A. I mean, I just a workaholic, but that's my own personal issues. But I just, probably the biggest thing is, and I'm a big fan, I'm going to give him a shout out if you guys don't mind, is a guy by the name, he goes by Keenan, but it's Jim Keenan. He wrote a book called Not Taught. And I read that book as a sales rep, or as a sales rep. I still think I'm a sales rep.
Right.
Oh my gosh. I'm in that
sales.
We're all in sales.
Hey, I'm in marketing and I've read that book.
But I read his book the fall of 2015. And it really resonated with me because a lot of what I was doing, I saw in that book. But where I really kicked it up, and I talked to Keenan about it, was he goes, you've written a couple blogs. I like the way you write, but you got to get your story out to your market. Because I was trying to write, and I enjoy writing, and I think salespeople can write. Most people believe salespeople can't write, and there's a lot of stuff going out in the news feeds right now. Salespeople shouldn't write. Well, next gen sales reps and successful sales reps should write. We just don't practice enough, just like sales reps don't prospect enough because they fail to practice prospecting. So what I just learned how to do, and Keenan taught me this, he goes, who's your target market? Think of your target market and write to your target market. So my target market's the copier channel. So what I did is I took all the stories that I've seen, all the stories I've experienced, all the issues and challenges, and every week I made a commitment to myself that I would write. So I blocked 2 hours on a Saturday morning, and I write a blog. And I save it, and I just let it sit. And then Sunday morning, I wake up, I reread the blog. Maybe I'll make some changes. I might even have somebody read it, and then I put it out. And I just knew that if I put something out every single week, people would start getting noticed, and that was thanks to my buddy Keenan. But sure enough, I started writing articles directly into the copier channel, And before I knew it, I'd get 100 views, 200 views, a couple likes, a couple comments. But with consistency, people really started to take notice of my blogs. I've had blogs hit 10,000 views.
Wow.
But what I found out also is those comments and likes were a way for me to re-engage with those people. Hey, thanks for taking notice of it. What'd you like about it? And from there, I started realizing that if I can get these people engaged in a conversation online, I already knew I looked credible online, so I didn't have to go down that road. But I was sharing those blogs, answering those issues, and everybody experiences something in those blogs. And I'm a little edgy to begin with. So some of them are pretty straightforward, and if you read some of them, it's a good slap across the face digitally. But
Right.
but the whole point about it is doing something different. And it's just like books, right? I'll read a book, and if the book makes sense, I'll use some of it. If the book doesn't make sense to me, I don't grab anything out of it. It wasn't a waste of time. I read the book, but I just remove it out of my brain. I just went into social as I'm 52 years old, so I just went into it as, if this is another way that I can market myself and align myself, then I've hit a home run. I think I've hit a home run. The most difficult thing is really getting the Copier channel to realize that social's here. It's not going away. I mean, we're not going to go backwards.
So talk to us a little bit about the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? I mean, you mentioned things like, I've had blogs that have hit up to 10,000 views. The VP of sales of LinkedIn recently came out and said that social sellers are 51% more likely to exceed their quota than non-social sellers. So in terms of, I guess maybe a little bit of the carrot instead of the stick, so to speak, right? What sort of incentive or what sort of return have you either personally seen or through Social Sales Academy, your clients? Can you talk a little bit about the positive impact investing this time and doing things like spending 2 hours writing on a Saturday morning? What type of impact has that personally had on you, or have you seen have on your clients?
I think the biggest thing is I started Social Sales Academy with 0 clients a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. And this is what sales reps are missing. And I'm just going to take a step backwards, but I will answer your question. In order for sales reps to have a really great sales funnel, and I have to have a sales funnel as well, it all starts with building a relationship funnel. So I knew that the more conversations I can start with people, just like you and I are starting right now, Brian, mm-hmm. the more conversations I can get, the more I'm building relationships. It may not be a sale right then and there, but they're going to start getting to know who I am. So What I did is a year and a half ago, I just went in with that mentality, is I had to start driving content. I had to start opening conversations, because if I'm not having any conversations with anybody, what do you think happens as a sales rep?
You don't sell anything.
You don't sell anything, right? So the hardest part for sales reps, and I ask them, what's the toughest part of your job? And the P word comes up, prospecting. Well, what do you have to do to prospect? You got to open your mouth. Mm-hmm. You got to have a conversation. So that's what I did. I just started having conversations with people to share my story. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big believer, stories sell. Mm-hmm. So I share the stories of how social impacted me as a sales rep, mm-hmm. and how I integrated social into the sales process. Right. And that's all I'm doing. So I always say, does social work? I think it absolutely works. Do social sellers outsell somebody else? I guess it just depends on the individual sales rep. But sure. I think what social allows somebody to do is open up more conversations, leveraging other tools. We still use the phone. We're still going to drive email. We're still going to use, those outbound ways of prospecting that we do. I just found that social was a way to start expanding the horizons of me.
Yeah. And look, it's the same conversation. It's just digital now. It's not much different from what sales reps have done for the past, in our industry. You've got people that have been in it for 30 years. You're doing the same thing. You've just transitioned channels.
Well, this is what just grates on me, is we all think that social selling, and I got to preface this, so I apologize to you, Brian. I don't think social selling is this new epiphany that's just come out over the last couple of years, because I think I was social selling in 1988 when I started selling copiers. Mm-hmm. It's just building relationships and changing mm-hmm. the way people think. 25, 30 years ago, we had to use it with the tools that we had, which was no internet, no PC. It was just face-to-face and phone.
Pay phones and quarters.
So now, if we fast forward to 2017, we're still building relationships and changing the way people think. We're using modern tools to do that, and modern tools happen to be the social platform and everything that falls into that.
That's right. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's I guess it's easy for me to say because it's kind of what I
Sure.
grew up with, so to speak. And I didn't really know much differently necessarily. I mean, I do remember when my family got access to the internet. So, I guess that dates me in a way. But anyway, I mean, I get the idea that, like, social tools weren't around forever. I mean, I was, I guess, of adult age, or at least old enough to go to the military and have a drink by the time Twitter and LinkedIn, for example, came to be. I think you're right. I don't think that the fundamentals of how people interact and want to learn from each other and hear stories and engage with people, I don't think that has fundamentally changed. I think you're absolutely right in pointing out that, look, it's the same song. It's just the name has changed a little bit, or the tools are different. Insofar as that, we're just going through LinkedIn now, and people just, quite frankly, don't prefer, at least for a first interaction, don't tend to prefer the phone or even email anymore. They're just over bombarded with so many calls and so many emails that this is just one different avenue to at least initiate that conversation. I'm not saying that it's how the sale is going to close, because I'm a firm believer. As a sales manager, as a rep, I said, look, you can social prospect and sell all day, all you want, but a sale is not going to happen until you actually have a human conversation with somebody over the phone or face to face, depending on what type of products and services you sell and what sales style you have, if it's an inside outside model, for example. So I think it's a really important insight, and I think a really important reminder too, for all the different generations that are now working together inside the sales industry, the workforce. It's a pretty interesting time, because we're at this kind of nexus point where technology has just absolutely exploded in the last decade or so. And there's these two sides of generations. And I think you're an awesome example of living proof that, you're young, but it's never too late to start, building out that profile, building out that presence, and learning those tools and becoming kind of technology literate, and not only literate, but incredibly successful doing it as well.
Well, no, thank you. And I think you said something about the phone, and I'm a firm believer that if sales reps can really leverage the power of social, you'll have stronger phone conversations with somebody.
Yep.
Because I live on the phone, but the thing that sales reps don't realize with the power of that's, we're talking about LinkedIn, but the power of LinkedIn is that's your website as a sales rep. Mm-hmm. So, I'm at the BTA show and I'm talking to dealer principals, and I was talking to him right before he hopped on this podcast. And I said, listen, you guys have great websites. Your websites build your credibility out in the marketplace. It tells your story.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think of that same thing when you have 20 salespeople sitting in your dealership. What do their websites look like?
Yep.
And they go, well, what are you talking about? I said, let's look at LinkedIn as their websites. If your sales reps come to work looking business smart, they don't look business smart online, and that's a direct representation of you, because they're representing your brand. So I said, how can you as a sales rep go out into the marketplace and market yourself if your online presence doesn't make you look like a subject matter expert? Because that's sometimes people's first opinion.
One of the things I was curious about, I think we're just about to come to time. I've got to hop off in just a little bit, but of course I don't want to stop the conversation early if there's more to chat about.
Well, we'll just have to do number 2 of this.
We'll have to do
That's
another
exactly
one.
right. We'll have to do another round of this. But the last thing I was thinking about, because I think you're absolutely right to say, hey, look, like, it's great that if you're talking to a business owner and say, your website's great, it's rich with information, it's got this blog, your brand kind of comes away across the way you want, it's attracting people in, it's helping them answer the questions that they're asking. That's great. What about the reps? One thing that I have recently been kind of keeping my eye on, that I think LinkedIn only released maybe a couple of months ago, is the social selling index. I'd imagine you're familiar with it.
Sure.
I wonder if that's a mechanism, or if you have any recommendations for how business owners that might be listening into this, or sales reps listening in, to say, basically that are looking for a third party kind of objective analysis of how good or bad their LinkedIn presence is, for example? What would you recommend? I mean, would you recommend the Social Selling Index? Would you recommend some other resource? Obviously, working with you, I'm sure too. You know, not to discount that by any means. What do you think?
Well, I think I know what my Social Selling Index is. Do I become obsessed with it? No, because I'm of that camp. If you can't sell, you can't sell. Mm-hmm. So I think if we pay so much attention to our Social Selling Index, I think we miss the point. But what I do like about the Social Selling Index from self-accountability point of view is it breaks it down into 4 quadrants. So it allows a sales rep to really self-manage themselves and say, how well does my brand appear online? How well am I sharing insights? How well am I leveraging my network?
Right.
To do these things. So I think sometimes we lose sight of sales reps because I think social can get yourself sucked into social real quick as a sales rep, and we don't want people to lose focus of what they need to do, which is drive sales revenue.
Right.
So I think if the Social Selling Index, what it really allows people to do is a way to say, how successful am I integrating some of this into the sales process? How well am I building my brand? So, they break it down into quadrants of 25 points for each 4 quadrant. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're missing on some of those, then what do I need to do as a sales individual to improve how I do some of these things? That's where I look at that Social Sales Index. I don't look at, some people might gamify the process. I just look at it as I need to self-motivate myself, and I need to become better at self-learning and self-educating myself as a sales rep first. So I use some of those tools, and I coach reps to say, just pay attention to your Social Selling Index, just so you know these 4 areas that you can work on to help you.
Well, and shouldn't sales managers, they're always looking for metrics to track, and it's always, number of calls, number of calls. Is that something that sales managers should look at incorporating into the activity metrics of their reps?
I would look. Yes, because we got to look beyond the metrics, and we got to look in between those metrics. What activities are you driving in between those metrics? It's not just calls, emails, and things. Okay.
Right.
So you made 100 calls. Big deal, right? What'd you do with those calls? I look at it as, how are you connecting to your network? How are you driving relevant information, and how are you opening up conversations, with your current clients?
Yeah.
How are you doing that? And then how are you effectively leveraging your client's network to help you build your business? So I think it's funny because sales has been so metrics driven, and sales managers are driving metrics the same way that they've been driving metrics for 20 years.
Yeah.
And we have to start taking a look. Do those things still work? Sure, but we have to open it up a little bit to say, what are we doing differently to engage in conversations?
Yeah, I think
what are we doing differently to engage in a conversation that's going to lead to a meeting, that's going to lead to an assessment, that's going to help you increase your sales revenue?
Right. I think it's an important point not to miss. For some reason I have it in my mind that Bear Bryant said this, and so in my mind that's who said it. I don't know who actually said it, but he said, "Never confuse activity with outcomes." And I think that's a really important reminder for, just like you said, Larry, any sales manager thinking about, gotta, look at metrics and drive. And all I'm looking at is it's numbers. But what's the quality behind it? What are the outcomes that are happening? Are we actually building funnel? Are we building quality relationships? Are we building reach? Are we actually helping people? God forbid, right?
Yeah, and you just said it just spot on with something is metrics don't build relationships. Right. And sales reps are metrics to death. But if we took a step back and said, if I can build better relationships with my current clients and leverage my clients to open up new levels of conversation with other people that they know, that's a whole lot different than just saying, how many calls did you do today? Right. How many emails did you drive out? How many appointments did you do?
Right.
Sales reps I'm smart enough, I can figure out how to make that thing go away real quick. Right, 200 calls. Right,
turn on my power dialer. Right,
yeah,
right.
200 calls before you know it.
Yeah. So all of these have been amazing points. We're going to have some fabulous show notes this week because I really want to get these points out there. And we will have to have Larry back because there's so much more that Larry. Yeah, there's so much more. Great.
You have to promise. You have to promise I'll come back, Brian.
I'm going to promise.
I'm not worried about Lindsay.
I'm promising. My promise to you is to invite you back and to have you back. I'd love to have you back. And I'm going to promise to every listener out there who's listening that we're going to have Larry back, and we're going to figure that out in the very short term.
Yes, I think inside of the next month or two, we're going to
Yeah.
have to get Larry back in here.
You know, I just and I
me
appreciate
too.
you guys having me on there. I just love what I do because social's had such a huge impact to me that I just love spreading the word. So as much as I can spread the word, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll make sure that we have a link to Larry's LinkedIn profile in the show notes as well, because you guys should really check it out. It's stellar. So, Larry, thank you
Oh, you're
for
welcome.
coming on. What is
It's
your
awesome.
Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle is Larry1Levine. You can find me that way on Twitter. My LinkedIn profile is, linkedin.com/Larry Levine 1992. You can find me on there, or at Social Sales Academy at socialsalesacademy.net.
Awesome. And you can always find me at LV Kelly. You can find Brian Sig at Inbound Seller. And folks, until next time, keep the conversation going.
Yeah, keep talking.
Awesome. See ya.
You've been listening to the Yin and Yang Show, a marketing and sales conversation with Lindsay Kelly and Brian Signorelli. Join us online at yinandyang.fm. That's www.yinandyang.fm.